Tynee Talks right here. We gon' talk about it right here. I'ma talk about everything you like. I'ma make it real quick, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it. Yeah, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it. And welcome to another fantastic, wonderful episode of the Tynee Talks podcast. I am your host, Tynee. This is the podcast where you come to laugh and learn, the podcast that educates as well as entertains. And today I have a wonderful guest with me, and his name is Mr. Patrick M. Oliver. Before I get with what he has going on, we have to hear a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by 810 Taco Seasoning. 810 Tacos is a premium seasoning pack made with 9 high-quality fresh spices. It is high in flavor and definitely low in sodium. The 810 Tacos tradition is to celebrate life with good food, friends, and families, to make memories and share love one taco at a time. So make sure you visit 810tacos.com. Don't forget to use code TYNEETALKS and you will receive $20 off your shipping. You will receive free shipping off orders $20 or more. Okay. So don't forget to visit 810tacos.com and use code TYNEETALKS tacos. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Patrick M. Oliver. He is a dedicated literary consultant dedicated to promoting reading and writing as tools of empowerment. And you know, around here in the Tynee Talks area, we love empowerment, and especially empowering people, especially African Americans, for sure. He is the creator and executive producer and host of Literary Nation Talk radio broadcast on KABI FM 88.3. He has had such guests as the rapper and actor Common, Hill Harper, who is now running for a Senate seat in the state of Michigan. And he has also had former editor-in-chief Susan Taylor. He has also had 2 appearances on C-SPAN and Black America Web. And he is the creator of On My Own, a vision board guidebook for young people. So without further ado, welcome Mr. Oliver.
Hey, thank you for having me. You start the show off just right, talking about tacos. I love tacos. So I'm going to get some of that seasoning.
Make sure you get some of that seasoning, and don't forget to use my code, because I'm a native of Flint, Mr. Oliver. I'm not sure if you knew that, but nobody does a taco like we do a taco. Okay.
What?
Okay. Guaranteed.
Okay. But yeah, I love tacos. It's kind of my system. I lived in California one time, huge Hispanic population prior to, going to Chicago and here. But I love authentic Mexican food, and tacos were always on the top of my list. When you said tacos, I can eat tacos any day of the week. Any day.
Yeah, I don't even need a Taco Tuesday for me to fry up some shells real quick. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm glad we got that in common. I would like to tell my listeners how I got acquainted with Mr. Oliver. My talkers out there, I was doing a speaking engagement for a retreat for young women. And I wanted to have them do vision boards, and I was needing some magazines, so that those young ladies could, have inspiration on what they wanted their future to look like. So I was calling around, and I called Mama Equate. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you got to know Mama Equate. She is the owner of the Pan-African Connection. And she is such a gem and a jewel to this community. And so I reached out to her, since she owns a bookstore, to see if she had magazines. She was out of town, and she referred me to Mr. Patrick Oliver. And he was so gracious to provide me with magazines. And not only did he provide me with magazines, he provided me with a copy of his guidebook for creating vision vision book or vision board, and he gifted those to the young ladies that I spoke to. So I just wanted to again say thank you, Mr. Oliver. The girls were so appreciative of that gift that you gave them, and we were really able to have some really guided discussions on writing the vision, as the Bible says, writing the vision, making it plain, and at its appointed time it shall come to pass.
Yes.
And so I would like you to share with my talkers a little bit about your background and why you, as a Black man, are you so committed to literary empowerment for young people.
Yeah. And again, a big shout out to Sister Corte at Pan African Connection. Like you said, she does a lot for the community. Definitely a cultural hub. You got to go there and just get enriched with all the things they have to offer. And I'm so glad she told you about the work that I'm doing with young people around vision boarding, because I was excited, the fact that you called me and said, hey, I need some magazines, brother. Can you hook me up? It's because I've been stockpiling magazines, just keeping them for upcoming, vision board activities that I do, not just in Dallas, but around the United States. So I was glad to offer you those magazines. But most certainly, I had it, also because the work you were doing, to offer you a copy of my vision board book to share with the young people, because the book is very important to me. And I've been working with young people for over 27 years now. Mm-hmm. I'm a native of Little Rock, Arkansas, born and raised there. Was known in the community primarily as a coach. I coached track and baseball and basketball at a very young age. I was 16, coaching AAU track teams and basketball teams, and kind of a prodigy, you should say, in terms of coaching young people. Yeah, I was into it. My grandfather was the guy. He knew I loved sports, and so I read a lot about sports. That's what got me into reading. I love sports so much, and I had uncles and aunties who were providing me with Sports Illustrated and other magazines. Mm-hmm. And so anytime there was a sports question in my neighborhood, everybody would say, hey, ask Patrick, he knows. So since that would always come up, ask Patrick, I had to be on top of my game. So I had to make sure I read everything, sports newspaper, Sports Illustrated, any magazine or article that was out there about sports. In case somebody come to me, I was ready, because that was my notoriety in the community. I was an okay basketball player. I participated in basketball, track, baseball, all of it. But I was average, but my parents, kind of knew it. They knew I loved sports, but they also pushed me because they saw me, hey, I enjoyed reading and books. So they kind of saw me as a young intellect. So they kind of nurtured that by, providing me with books and magazines and newspapers and things like that. And so I did that the early part of my teenage years, coaching sports, and I spent a year in college in a small city, city in Arkansas. Went to Arkansas State University for a year. Okay. And a small town, but kind of overtly racist at the time. And I was a freshman, first time away from home. Nobody really there. Some friends from the neighborhood went to college there. That's why I went. I had no intentions of going to college, but I knew I wanted to get out of Little Rock. I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Left Little Rock and went to Arkansas State. Didn't stay there. Went there a year. Didn't do very well. I was a knucklehead. You can't let a freshman have his own dorm room.
So you didn't have? Did you have a roommate?
I had a roommate, but he had some friends that he would rather stay with them. And we had big dorm rooms, so he decided I just stay with my boys. They from the same city. He felt more comfortable with that. I didn't complain because I had my own dorm room. Right. But the upper level students took advantage of this poor little freshman guy, and my room became the party room. And I embraced it because I thought I was being cool. Had these upperclassmen hanging out in my room, having a good time, and I wasn't going to class like I should have. All of that. So my father saw my grades. He decided to come pay me a visit. And I was playing pool when he came to visit me, so that wasn't a good thing. And I ended up back in Arkansas and moved to California after that, and worked in the aerospace industry for 13 years and that's where I found out that writing is a powerful tool, because I worked again in the aerospace industry for the Grumman, Northrop Grumman, as a contract administrator. I worked my way up from the lab to a contract administrator. I knew the power of writing when we had to write proposals, we had to write technical documents and things like that. And that early reading that I had, reading magazines and things like that, gave me an advantage because I wasn't afraid of words. I wasn't afraid of sharing words, reading documents, because again, early on, reading those sports magazines and things like that made it read very comfortable for me. So when opportunities came in the aerospace industry, I excelled.
What did you find in your journey in this life? Did you find that most Black males did not have your passion for reading or even level of literacy? Um, did you find that to be the case?
To some degree. Many of my friends, they were good in athletics, so that
Hmm.
was a focus. But I can say back in the day, we didn't have the technology that young people have today, the phones and
Hmm.
distractions and all of that. We just had the television, so we didn't have the tablets, we didn't have the iPads, and we didn't have the laptops. We just had the desktops, and so there wasn't that distraction per se to always want to see what's happening, what's going on,
Hmm.
on social media. So the level of reading was a little bit higher because we were in our classrooms and we were focusing. And because I grew up in housing projects, it was clear about me and my friends. Our only way out of here is going to be to go. We got to go to college,
Yeah.
or get a good job. We know we had to be to read. We had to be, productive young people. So we kind of had in our head that we have to at least get out of high school. And so we figured, hey, I want to get out of high school to be able to read, to do math and reading. So we focused on that. And the other thing was we all thought we was cool. And back in the day, no girl wanted a guy who could not read. Okay,
Hello.
so the mamas let it be known that no, you're not gonna date that dude from the projects on the east side of town, and he can't read. They weren't having it. So we had to, because of the side of town we lived in, we had to come and date these young ladies, but we had to be on top of our game. We had to, yes ma'am, no ma'am, what's your interest? We had to share all of that. And churches back in the day, we would go to church. We would go to church, and
Hmm.
we had to read the Bible, like you read a verse earlier around
Hmm.
vision. So, we had theater productions. We had Bibles study before church started. We had to read to those Black women who were educators, who were teaching Bible studies. So if we couldn't read, they were assisting us in reading. So there was like this community incubator that created this kind of necessarily thirst for reading, but
Hmm.
a kind of a lifestyle that required that we are articulate orally as well as written.
That is so important that you brought the church into it, and also just the idea of being on top of your game and knowing how to read. I think that is becoming lost with the advancements in social media, because being on top of one's game is how many followers you have or what did you do that went viral. So the literary part is not a main focus. And even with my own son, I'm like, are you need to know how to read. If I wanted to date you, I want someone that is intelligent. I'm a sapiosexual, so that means that I'm attracted to intelligence. So for me, that's that is
Okay.
very
Yes.
that is very important.
Yes.
But to your point about the church, I was just having this conversation the other day with my husband. For many Black people, um, that was our golf club, or that was our social scene, the church. And so you were there a lot. That's where you learn public speaking as a
Yes.
child. That's where you learn about hierarchies and order of operations. All of that was learned in the church. And you talked about having to know how to read the Bible, or those church productions, as we like to call it, the church
Yes.
play, or even getting your Easter speech or your
Yes.
Christmas speech. And I
Yes.
remember we would be in competition with one another to see who could get the longest speech and
Yes.
could memorize it. So that's the church is very important, not only instrumental in our spiritual well-being, but also, like you said, in the oratorical realm, and those soft skills that will benefit us as we go on into our adulthood. That's very
Yes.
important.
Yeah, I mean, in church, it was fun back in the day. Like I said, the things that we used to do, we had a community, a family of friends. Some of the kids who went to church with me didn't necessarily live in my neighborhood, but their parents or their grandparents lived in the neighborhood at one time. So they became their church home. Even though they moved to the west side and the church was on the east side, they still came back on Sundays. And so we had these church friends, and we had the neighborhood friends. Like
Yeah.
you said, it was, and oftentimes the friends from the west side, because they were, parents were well to do, and they had it going on. Like you said, we competed with them. We wanted to show them, hey,
Yeah.
just because you got better clothes than me, don't mean you're smarter than me. And so when those contests came, we were ready. We were ready to sing. As they said back in the day, we would show out. So,
Okay.
and we did that. We made our grandparents and sisters and mothers proud of us. When we got our chance, like you said, doing the church plays. And doing those church plays, people forget those church plays had poetry by Nicky Giovanni, Maya Angelou, Paul Robeson. We just weren't doing scriptures. We were doing literary stuff. I mean, speeches by noted people. So a lot of the things that kids are learning at school, we got that at church or something. Like you said, church programs. On Sunday. So church played a major role, definitely in my life.
For sure, definitely me in my life as well. I'm just so glad that you bring that to the forefront. I know, with the pandemic and with people, exploring their religions and their spirituality, that sometimes churches put on the back burner, but it's still a vital part of nourishing us as people, and moving us forward. So we should not forget about the church, because all those special things and experiences and friends are there. You talk about your church friends, and me and my church friends, we're still close to this day. We used to have church lock-ins and sleepovers, and I remember,
Yes.
in the church, you can't really celebrate Halloween. So we would have a heaven and hell party, just to keep us safe. It was such a safe haven. So, yeah, thank you
Vacation
just for
Bible
asking.
Vacation Bible study for a week. I mean, I couldn't believe all the stuff making me think about all the things we used to do as a young person. You know,
Yeah.
spent a whole week just studying and being around elders and learning from them.
Yeah, being around the elders. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about how you came to write the On My Own vision board guidebook for young people.
Mhm.
Were you a person that made vision boards, prior to you creating this? Or was it just something that you came to create because you felt that there was a need? Did you feel that the youth were lacking a vision or where they wanted to go? Because without a vision, they say the people perish. And so, what is your inspiration behind that?
It was a combination of things. After being downsized in corporate America, I worked in Los Angeles, but I got downsized and went back to Little Rock, Arkansas, just to take a break. I lived in LA for 13 years, and I
Mhm.
went back to Arkansas and opened a bookstore art gallery. Because I love books, and I love art. So I just thought I'd just leave a little family legacy, something I can turn over to them. I can go and do what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I was going to turn over to my family. But a after school program in Arkansas asked me to. They loved my bookstore, the activities we were hosting. And would I take over a church? As a matter of fact, would I take over the after school program and be director? It's like, hey, you guys, how can I do that? I got a bookstore, art gallery. He said, whatever time you can give us, the activities you have at that bookstore, please bring them to after school program. Our children need culture. They need it. And there was a minister who was forward thinking, elder, but forward thinking. And I said, hey, well, I can't close my bookstore. We have to work something out. So we did work something out where I had somebody would come in and work the bookstore while I was going to the after school program from 4 to 7 o'clock. And it was there, sister, that I found out that our children were way behind. It just overwhelmed me. It's like, how did this happen? We were just reminiscing, laughing, and having a good time about what we had learned in our community, in our churches. Well, what happened? Why these babies don't have it? That's the first thing came to my mind. And we at a church, why these children can't relate to us reading poetry, inspirational poetry. Why they don't want to read this? And obviously, why they don't want to read it, because they can't read. And so I had to step back from the program, and I just told the church that with the fun and games, all this other stuff we're talking about having, it's over. We got to focus strictly on literacy this first year. It's all we're going to do. Literary arts. That's going to be our focus. And it made a lot of people very unhappy. It's like, you come in trying to take over and change what we do. No, it's educational enrichment. We can't educate kids if they can't read and write. So that was the first part when I found out where our children were. And so working that program really opened my eyes to the needs of our community. And so, me being a former technical writer, I assisted the church in writing grants to get funding for literary arts programs and projects, and just getting young people just to respond, to write anything, just what's on top of your head, and also reminding them that your words are beautiful, your story, your narrative, everybody's narrative is different. Just because somebody has this narrative, that's their narrative. What is your narrative? What is your story? And that's the thing I always want to try to get young people to tell their story, to own it. Because oftentimes a lot of young people get in trouble because they think they don't have a story. So they're going to do what the next person does, whether it's good or bad. And so just reminding young children, you have a story, you need to own it. And most importantly, you got to be able to tell it, whether it's written or whether it's orally. You got to be able to tell your story to get to what you want in life. And too often times our children cannot do that, either orally or written, particularly today with the advent of technology. You think they can type or send anything off that's going to tell their story? No, and they want to use videos and, TikTok is cool, but I tell educators all the time, it cannot give kids the requirements or the tools they need to compete in corporate America. They may do a TikTok exercise for you in the classroom, but you can't take that to the boardroom, somebody's boardroom, when they ask you to develop a plan of action to move their company forward. You're going to create a TikTok video? I mean, in some cases, yes, there's a marketing department that does that, but somebody got to write that script for it. Somebody got to create that content. And so while we can't be content creators for Mercedes-Benz, while we can't be content creators for major corporations, State Farm, target content creators, content that targets, Black folk, Asian folks, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of my little diabolical way of getting our children, this vision board guidebook, to understanding what it means to be able to write, to respond to a question. Because as you well know, sister, if you write grants, they ask you questions about who you are, about your organization, how long your organization been around, what do you do? Why do you do it? You got to respond to those kind of questions if you want to get funding for what you do.
If you can't articulate it, then you won't be able to move forward.
We'll get to move forward. And we're moving into a highly technological, entrepreneurial future, where more and more people are working from home, and they have to submit proposals to various companies, say, hey, here's what I can do for you. I can do your social media, I can do your administrative assistant, I can do that work for you, just a number of things. But the bottom line is, you got to submit them some kind of proposal, tell them when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and how long it's going to take you to do it. And our kids are going to be out of place. The same thing with, if they want to get into college, colleges want to know something about you. You can't share your story, your narrative. Colleges are not going to want you. A lot of kids are getting big time scholarships through grades and through these personal narratives they're writing about themselves. They get into major universities, major medical schools, just being able to share their stories. A lot of them have very compelling stories that can get them in any college, but you got to be able to tell that story in writing. Some colleges do sell videos that kids share, but the major colleges um, and the departments you want to get into some of these major colleges,
You got to
you
be
got
able to write.
you got to be able to write it. You got to be able to tell that story in writing. So that's what the vision board guidebook does. It asks kids, it's 20 something exercises, and it asks kids questions. They got to respond to it, whether it's in writing or in drawing. But ask them first of all your thoughts about what you just read. This writing prompt around health. This writing prompt around being a musical genius. This writing prompt around exercise, nutrition, all these things, and also help young people with that vision.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because you see, I'm going to be this doctor, lawyer, this highly professional person. Well, how are you going to get there?
Yeah. Well, you
What's
got
the
to
steps to get in there? You got to be healthy. You got to stay healthy. You got to be focused. You got to pray. You got to meditate. You got to be still. You got to have mentors. All
mm-hmm.
these things I ask in the vision board guidebook. And one of the most important reasons I did the vision board guidebook was because of the pandemic. I did
Mm-hmm.
an earlier version of this vision book. It was much smaller. I was just having fun with it. But then the pandemic hit, and we lost a lot of people.
We
I
did.
lost a lot of family, friends, and associates, and we lost a lot of people in our communities. And a lot of young people lost uncles, aunties, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters. And 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, and all they're seeing is death
Mm.
all around them. On television, they're talking about it. And if, as an adult, if I'm looking at the television and I'm kind of nervous about what I'm seeing and scared, imagine what these fifth and sixth graders are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The elementary school kids, the parents can kind of talk to them and say, "Hey, it's going to be okay," and they'll accept it because they're parents. But middle schoolers, they're kind of analytical. They can like, "Wow, people are dying, a lot of people," and a lot of people, young people were afraid, were scared. So what I want to do with the Vision Board Guidebook was say to them, "We got your back.
Yeah.
Elders in the community, we got you. Stay focused on your vision for the future, but we got you." So I had nutritionists, doctors, ministers, judges give me. I told them, just give me 250-word writing prompts and show the young people and have them respond to it. And writing prompts that are like affirmation based, that are challenging young people to engage in something where they're affirming themselves and they're finding out about themselves at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
also they're responding to. It's a call and response. We
Mm-hmm.
ask a question and they're responding to it. So it's almost again back to me wanting to create the next generation of technical writers. I'm going right back to them by asking these very I don't think they're complicated questions, but they're fun questions that young
Yeah.
people are familiar with, eh, especially if they're based on who they are.
I think, thank you for sharing that. I think that is so important, especially the call and response and the understanding. I think it boils down to critical thinking, right?
Yes.
I think what you're explaining to those children in Arkansas, they couldn't necessarily understand because they could not critically think. They couldn't necessarily process it. And then when you go down the line and you talk about this vision, and reading and literacy, I think that all goes down with terminology. if you
Yes.
don't if you don't read, then you don't understand certain aspects of a terminology to get to where you need to go. A prime example, I work in education, and several students come and they'll say they want to be a doctor. So then I'll say, okay, this is the path to become a physician. And they'll
Yes.
say, no, I said I wanted to become a doctor. I say,
Right.
well, a doctor and a physician are synonymous, the
Right.
same. It's
Right.
the same thing. This is the I guess you could say the proper term would be physician. And so then I'll explain to them the path of what it takes to become a physician. You get your undergraduate degree, whether you start at community college or the university. And then you take what is called the MCAT. You have to pass this MCAT exam. Then you have to apply to medical school. Then you get into the medical school, then you have to do a residency, and so on and so forth. So there is a path, there is
Yes.
a long path. And so some students are intrigued by that path, and then some students are discouraged by the long road ahead. But if you have the vision, and within that vision you're asking questions, and you know how to critically think, and you know that there will be some challenges along that way, that there will be some roadblocks along that way. But if you maintain the vision, as you said, and you keep looking towards the end goal, then you'll be able to go through those potholes and the rugged weather and all of those things to get to that goal. And so when I looked at your in that book, and the affirmations, that was a key thing that you said, and that some of the young ladies that I presented it to said the affirmations in it to inject some confidence into yourself. How important, Mr. Oliver, is it for people to be affirmed?
Yeah. It's extremely important, because if you don't have those affirmations, well, and those challenges, like you were talking about, this road to success, this road to becoming a doctor. Um, I'll speak to my neighbor this morning. We were talking about it's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens on the way. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to jump over these complex things that are in life, these challenges you're going to face, this failure you're going to face. That journey is extremely important. The bumps on the way reminds me of the poem Langston Hughes wrote, "Mother to Son." Life is no crystal
Crystal
staircase.
hair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and we talk about affirmation. Those things, those challenges, sometimes can affirm who you are. He's like, I made it through this. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
I got through it. So now I'm ready for the next step uh, that comes along. So it gives you that sense of confidence. It gives you that sense of, hey, I can do this, and we know what's next. That manifestation takes place once you affirm all this wonderful stuff happening. It's like, wow, I see it. I can see it now, and you start reaching higher and higher, and the process starts to happen. And those goals you identified, many of them come into fruition. And we have to tell young people, teach them those words. What does affirmation mean? What does manifestation mean?
Mm-hmm.
What are goals? What are a real goal? What does that mean? And I also talk about, I tell people all the time, these to-do lists that you do. Those
Mm-hmm.
are those as goal setting, but it's also a vision. You do a to-do list, you look at that list, you complete that stuff. That's a vision you've completed. You got a vision that you have these things completed, and you
Mm-hmm.
did. So that's again another something that you can affirm that you've done, that you can now be proud of, that you've accomplished that. And that's why I tell people all the time, we got this wonderful technology around us. I have a lot of teachers approach me, hey, why don't you do, they have these digital vision boards you can do now. I said, look, I don't want to do none of that. I want to stick. I want to see kids do the handwork. I want to
Mm-hmm.
see them at a table together, working on,
Conversing,
you know,
laughing, sharing ideas.
okay,
I,
all of that.
I
You see,
love to see the young people look at someone else's vision board and say, "Why you put that right there?"
right,
And then
right,
they're able to explain, I put that right there because I want a big house, or
right,
I want to go on a vacation. Sometimes they'll put a palm tree on there, or in a magazine it might have the clear waters, and it's like, well, what does that represent? Oh, I want to go
right.
to the beach. and
Yes,
and I love how you articulated the idea of the to-do list being the vision, and how even at our big ages, how accomplished we feel when we can say we washed the dishes, cleaned
what,
our house, and
what,
was able to grocery shop in one day. It's like,
okay,
God,
what,
give me a
what?
gold star, okay?
And
And
we really do. I mean, it's adrenaline. I do get it when I get those things done. It's adrenaline. Yes,
absolutely.
yes,
My friends are always like, Tynee, how many hours do you have in a day? Because I try to accomplish my daily goals, and I always try to make sure that I get at least a 2-mile walk in daily. And that's just for me to maintain my health, uh,
yes,
because I
yes.
lead a sedentary 8 to 5 position. So making sure that I get those 2 miles in, to help with my overall physical and mental health. But the to-do list is important. And you spoke on you and your neighbor discussing the journey. And I
Yes.
cannot emphasize the beauty of the journey so much, because the journey is character building.
Okay.
You
will
build
make you.
your character in the journey. If it wasn't for those upperclassmen using you, you wouldn't know what it would be like to be used. You know what it looks like. You know
Yes,
what it sounds like. You know what that
yes,
sweet talk sounds like.
yes,
You know
yes.
that you my boy, but you really not my boy. I'm trying to use you looks like, because that journey built your character.
It sure did. It sure did. It sure did. No, yes. All of all of those steps, because we forget about that, those
Yeah.
small things, and they're not small, in the big picture, particularly like you said, they're life's transformative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That if I hadn't had the experience, I wouldn't have known that. Wow, I thought I was really doing something. I thought I was really the dude.
You thought you were a big man on campus. You
I was a big
the
man
biggest
on
fool.
big food, and we have to think about that nowadays with young people, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how they get persuaded into doing
Mm.
acts of violence,
Yeah.
acts of, just, doing things wrong because they're trying to either influence somebody or be hip or be cool or be part of the crew, and so we have to really, particularly black boys,
Mm-hmm.
they're at a very difficult time now, where the world is telling them that they have to be extremely, almost hostile to be respected,
Mm-hmm.
and then that hostility um, is done around their immediate friends, family, and associates and classmates.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a problem. All these black boys, got this bravado now, and say the wrong thing to them, they'll go home and get something, and so that's one of the reasons the vision board project, I try to get more and more boys involved in it. I got a journal, write feelings down, because it's just a challenge now for, and young ladies too,
Mm-hmm.
'cause you got young ladies dealing with this whole hot girl thing, you know. So we got boys and girls all going to, wilding out, as opposed to celebrating the beauty and sophistication of Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
We're some awesome people. We just got to get our children and our community back to it, like we talked about back in the day. Have these spaces of reverence, having these safe spaces, these be still spaces. Can't
Mm-hmm.
just be going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And even getting on these phones, all the time today, checking them, checking them. I have to watch myself. Has
Too.
anybody text me yet? Have I got this email yet? Ooh, let me see how many likes I got on this latest Facebook post, or this latest Instagram post, or this LinkedIn post. We constantly, moving and distracting. And I must say, I'm doing my best to lay off a little bit. It's challenging because I have a business. I'm trying to promote literature and books, and people are on social media. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a balance, from this, because it can be a great tool, but at the same time, for our children, we need to really watch what it's doing to our children.
Yeah, that's very real, Mr. Oliver. And I too am struggling with separating from the phone. I'm constantly on it. Even my son is like, okay, mom, get off the phone. And we had a rule at our house, no phones at the dinner table. But these last couple of weeks, we have just literally been ignoring it. But yeah, we do have to, regulate ourselves. And I just want to just thank you for the work that you are doing with young people, being a role model in the community, using your knowledge, your gifts, your experiences to pour into young people so that they can have a plan for their journeys and their vision and know how to get from destination A to B. Um, and so I would like to reiterate that scripture again, that write the vision, make it plain, and at its appointed time it shall come to pass.
Yes.
And you talked about manifestation and all these buzzwords that are out there right now. And yes, you can manifest it. You could think about it all day and hope that it comes. But if you don't put the work in to get to that manifesting dream, it will not come to fruition.
Work, work.
You got to
Yes.
work towards it. You got to affirm yourself along the way. As the song says, you got to encourage yourself along the way. You got to surround yourself with others who may have a similar vision, or
Yes.
even if they don't have a similar vision, that they're working towards a goal of their own. I work with so many young people where you'll have, I just saw this the other day, where you have a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and the girlfriend is super motivated. She's ready to go and move forward in her future. And she's trying to carry the weight of that young man who just doesn't want to do it. And in my role, I can't tell you what to do, but what I can do is point out the obvious and say, hey, make that decision based on this right here.
Yes.
And so, as we close out this beautiful talk, again, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. Um, can you give us some closing remarks to the listeners out there about um, their visions, and also close out and let us know about your website and where they can get your vision book?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Like I said before we went live, I just appreciate what you're doing, the energy you bring to your podcast. It's very inspiring. It's important. We need this. It's even more important than some of the television shows we watch on television, because they don't always get to the real needs of our people and have the necessary conversations to address some of the needs in our community. So thank you for this podcast. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it, or me inviting myself to be a part of it. So I really appreciate you for that. You mentioned something earlier about walking. Wellness is so important. I walk 4 or 5 days a week. I make it a point, because that walking, as you well know, because you walk, 4 or 5 days a week yourself or more, it's a be still time.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking by yourself. You're walking, but oftentimes some great ideas come in my head, while I'm walking, because I'm just like, wow, it's clarity.
Yes.
You're moving your body's movement, everything is moving. Your body, your blood is flowing, and obviously, if your blood is flowing out in your body, it's going to come to your brain, so your brain is blowing up as well. So I really want our people to focus on this. It's extremely important. I've been a foodie, a wellness advocate for a number of years, just trying to get people to focus on that, because that's one of the major challenges facing us now, with all the different
Mm-hmm.
foods and stuff, out of the GMOs and what they're putting in the foods and things of that nature. So I cook a lot. I grew up old Southern. My father was in the kitchen. My mother had to go back to school, so my father had to do the cooking. And so I saw a black man cook. So I'm not afraid to get in the kitchen and handle my business. So it's important that black men, that we do that. We can't pull up, to drive in and feed our family. We got to go and get in that kitchen and wash some greens and go and cook them. If we have to
Right.
make some yams, make some breakfast. It don't take much to make a breakfast. My father made my oldest brother cook breakfast every Saturday for the
Mm-hmm.
family. Made my mother and my sisters feel like queens. But his goal was that my son is going to be self sufficient. That's what men are supposed to be able to do. If they have to cook for their family, they're going to be able to do it. Not just work, but also whatever it takes to run that house. Son, you got to be ready to do it. And
Right.
so I just want to tell folks, wellness is extremely important. Your mental, spiritual wellness. You mentioned earlier, watch the people you hang out with, because that's part of your wellness, your spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
and your mind, your body, and your spirit. Let's be on top of it, and we'll be ready for any challenge that come our way, because they're coming. They're constantly coming.
Mm-hmm.
If what's happening, the work I do around literature, literacy, the banning of books. We just saw something yesterday with that madman, that evil person in Florida,
Right.
wanting to teach middle school kids that slavery was a reward. There was something that was, they learned something from being enslaved. So we're dealing with that kind of madness, and teachers who want to push it on our children. So we got to be ready, got to be prepared for this war. And one way to be prepared is physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that's part of our culture as Black people. We always were ready for any kind of battle. Just look at our history, look at our immediate history in our own families. And there's some beautiful stories. in all of our families that tell us about victory and vision and manifestation.
That's right. Well, thank you so much. Where can my listeners follow you on social media?
www.speakloudly.com. That's my website. You can check me out there. There's a lot of good information there. I need to add some updates. We got some events coming up. They can catch me. I'm on Facebook. Facebook. Just say it loud. Readers and writers, or my name, Patrick Oliver. I'm also on IG uh, uh, as well. LinkedIn. I'm on most of the social media pages except for TikTok. I decided, hey, I can't do TikTok. I'm not gonna overload myself. Only so much I can do. I'm on Twitter. I don't post that much on Twitter, but definitely I'm on Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, and my website. We're doing some really fun stuff, and hope people can check us out and see what we're doing and be part of some of the events we got coming up. The African American uh, Museum is hosting the Tula Summer Book Fair, 18th and 19th. The 19th is a book fair, so we'll be doing panel discussions there and a lot of fun things, and that I think people would definitely enjoy. We'll be talking about uh, publishing and writing and creativity. Um, got some great authors and book illustrators who are going to be part of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to my listeners who tuned into today's show. Be sure to go visit speakloudly.com to learn all about getting your own vision book for your young person in your life or even for yourself. Again, today's show was brought to you by Tynee Talk. 810 Tacos. And you can use code Tynee Talks Tacos at 810tacos.com to spice up your Taco Tuesday night. Again, peace.
Peace.